peace, and great rising. How are you all? I said great rising. You could tell I do most of mine in the morning. um, However, we're going to say the right time frame. Good evening or afternoon. That's the right one. How y'all doing? I do apologize for the tardiness. Um, when I say my computer decided it wanted to reboot when it was time for me to come live. Ashe. So we are grateful to be here today to bring forth our overstanding of this here excitement assignment, in which today we're talking about symbols and um, our living language. Okay. Give me 1 second. Like I said, I had to reboot everything, or the computer rebooted everything. So I have to reset up. Give me 1 second. However, we're going to talk about how sacred geometry, which is symbolization, plays such a huge role in our spiritual growth and development. Okay. Uh, Give me 1 second. All righty. So let's get back to it. Um, Today we're talking about teachings of symbols as a living language. Um, a lot of times we decorate our households, we decorate our walls, we wear jewelry, and they all have some form of a symbol. Just about every business and organization that we know of has what we call logos. And the majority of our logos symbolize something, right? And why is it so important that we have these symbols around us? What purpose do they really serve, that we have to identify an image of self, business, purpose? Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 second. I hear an echo. Okay. So what part of self are we? What part of self are we echoing far as the activation of our daily existence? Today, we're going to actually discuss the constructive or activation coding of our DNA through symbolizations. And somebody asked me earlier, like, what you mean by that? I'm not saying that these symbols are going to give you instantaneously superpowers. No, what I'm saying is that through these symbols, though, you can utilize the power of the intent behind those symbols to help magnify what it is that you truly desire. Okay. We're going to come from a psychological, spiritual, and a essence of existence in our overstanding today, in our lessons today. Okay. And by the time I finish, I will that we all have clarity and understanding on how to utilize these perceptions of symbols to help open up, clear out, and align our chakras. Okay. So let's start back with a little bit of insight of a historical or history of perception. Okay. When these symbols are perceptions of what it is that we allow to absorb into our existence. It brings forth an energy of vibration. It brings forth recognition, brings forth patterns, right? And these patterns are all identifying an intuitive connection, okay? Once again, before there was even a language that we knew patterns. We knew symbols. We understood that patterns could still bring a vibration, because I could put a certain symbol up and it would activate an awareness within your conscious, and then you respond, react, or receive or project the vibration that you receive from that symbol. Right. Prime example, on the back of a lot of our products, we have chemical symbols. And these symbols usually have like this line going through it in inside of the circle. And once we see this symbol, we instantaneously know that this is something that's going to be hazardous, dangerous, and it instantly gives a code within the DNA to stay away from, right? It signals a message. It signals a message within the brain, right? That interprets the patterns before we even understand exactly what the situation may be. Like I say, back of alcohol, 100% alcohol, rubbing alcohol. They say, do not drink this alcohol. Why? Because it absorbs, it's dangerous, especially for the lungs, right? And the other organs within the body. So you don't want to drink this. So therefore they will put a warning label of do not drink this. That vibration, before you even partake of taking a sip or indulging in the alcohol, that symbol itself gives directions to the subconscious mind. It's a subconscious architectural understanding of what is your reality within the moment. So once again, these vibrations, even though may not be moving, they're still sending a movement of direction into the awareness. Okay, it's bypassing the subconscious mind and going directly into the subconscious of the architectural reality. Okay, so let's understand this a little bit more clearly, right? What am I trying to really say to you all? I'm trying to say that symbols are not something that you just look at. It is something that's looking back at you. There's dialogue, there's communication that's coming back from what you have accepted or, once again, rejected into your reality. The psychological power of symbols is a shortcut into the subconscious mind of awareness. This is where you are looking at the image, and the image has already been structured with the intentions to draw you in for your awareness and better understanding. I hope I'm making some sense to somebody. The flower, we're not going to jump there. So when we are dealing with this energy that is shaping and repeating vibrations of coding, we are receptors receiving that knowledge and that understanding. Like I say, you don't have to tell me certain symbols. If I drew a symbol of a heart, you wouldn't have to tell me what the heart symbolized. You wouldn't have to tell me the vibration of the feeling of the heart. If the heart is completely whole, then it is symbolizing love, abundance, joy, happiness, peace, unity, unification, right? But if the heart was to happen to have a line going through it, I'm just breaking this down for someone understanding. When the heart is split into pieces, it brings a certain vibration. Like I said, this is not sound. This is not a verbal communication. This is you understanding the symbolization, because your DNA has already been downloaded, the intuitive interpretation of what that symbol represents and symbolizes. Like I say, these symbols are not necessarily moving in motion, yet it is still penetrating a vibration of movement, or a vibration of energy, because it's bringing forth a memory within the DNA. Okay. And over time, the symbols can be anchored into belief systems. This is how come churches have the cross, Kemet have the Ankh, you have the 5-point star, you have the 6-point star, you have sacred geometry, you have the flower of life, you have Matrion's cube, you have the Ankh, you know what I'm saying? We have the Sir Yantra. These all are activating messages of coherence into the brain, into the DNA, right? So this is why we as spiritual beings always have symbols of sacred geometry somewhere within our homes and our rooms, because it's a vibration that's going to constantly echo through the room, right? People put crosses on their walls because they believe that the cross is going to constantly remind them to stay in a certain alignment, so they will always be convicted whenever they see the certain symbol, right? Well, when we start talking about tapping into sacred geometry and the complexity of the connection, we're talking about higher order of cognition. Okay, we're talking about aligning ourselves so that we may be able to learn how to psychologically shortcut the brain into exact activation, exact moment of shaping, molding, reprogramming a cognitive moment. I believe that's the best way I can put it. Once again, the mind does not process every detail of reality. It compresses information into recognizable forms. You hear what I'm saying? The mind does not process every detail. It just compresses the information to recognizing form. Because once again, as I'm always teaching you all, we are made of 81% of water. So the water in our body already holds memory. And we understand this through sound and frequency, that certain frequencies will bring a form about a certain sacred geometry of existence within the DNA, which brings forth the memory of activation. Okay, I'm doing my best to try to stay on focus, because this is a deep subject that a lot of people take for granted, and we're always feeling like we're stuck in something, not realizing that the keys to your eternal happiness, to the kingdom, are always around you. You just have to become more aware and attuned that it's there. This is how come our ancestors, Ashe, let me stop and take a moment, because me rushing did not acknowledge our ancestors. Pouring libations. Elaine Talley, Ashe. Dorothy Talley, Ashe. Fred Wilson, Ashe. John Welch, Ashe. To all my ancestors known and unknown, Ashe. All right, so Coming back to the assignment, now that we have ushered our ancestors into this, may we gain more clarity and understanding. Ashe, Ashe. Okay, so let's break some things down. Let's get into this. I think I gave enough of an introduction and understanding, and we are on a time schedule, so therefore I want to make sure I get the important things to you that's necessary. Okay, that's necessary. Okay. So we're going to start first with this. Hold on one second. Gigi, I need you to quiet down, please. Thank you. That's my grandbaby, y'all. She gonna get loud again. Get ready for it. All right. So where the let's start with the Ankh and the cross. Okay. Let's begin there. I want to bring clarity and understanding to the symbolizations that are most common to us at this moment, which is the actual Ankh and the cross. Okay. So, one of the things that we understand is that there was and there has always been a combination of these two symbols that we are definitely aware of. The Ankh is complete, the cross is incomplete. What do we mean by that? Come on, we talk about symbolizations and how they've been echoed and downloaded through our DNA, right? The hoop, which represents feminine energy, has been removed from the cross, right? The balance is broken. The meaning is changed. See how simple symbols can bring forth a different concept of our knowing and awareness, right? So I'm not going to go into a lot of the details that you see before you on your screen, but I will point out the main points of why we have this particular podcast today. Because once again, two different symbols, but two different messages, which brings about two different paths, right? Knowing the origin and understanding the transformation, reclaiming truth. That is the whole concept of us having a podcast. Not just because I'm trying to make myself known or famous, but because I'm showing you the keys to the kingdom. The name of the podcast is Sacred Keys for You. We want to bring balance back to where it's supposed to be, and understanding that our symbols play an ultimate part of what? Representing balance within self. Okay. Symbols do not lie. The power does rewrite. Okay. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look. In our ancient Kemetic philosophy and science, we originated the symbol with a hoop. That hoop represented the womb, the feminine portal to eternal life. Not just representing the woman, it represents a energy. Remember, I started off talking about how symbols are being downloaded within our DNA as to why we decorate our rooms with these particular images, because once again, they represent something. Okay. The crossbar, which is a horizontal line. This is a meeting place union of opposites. Okay, a union of duality, your negative, and once again, we talk about energy, your negative and your positive energy, which once again represents your feminine and your masculine energy. So there's a union. You see the symbol. There's a union that comes between the hoop, right? And that vertical line that we know of is considered to be a masculine. Okay, the backbone. See how they made the woman a backbone, but here the man is the woman's what? Backbone, the connection between heaven and earth. Okay, we're talking about the vertical line, which is a masculine line. So the hoop in the vertical line, which is considered in ancient Kemet the phallus, represents both masculine and feminine what? Combination meaning intertwining into one of balance of negative and positive energy. So the Ankh itself is a life force energy. It brings forth balance, union of feminine and masculine, creation, continuity, immortality, harmony. Harmony, balance. That is what the symbol of the Ankh represents. Now let's talk about what is the cross. The cross was once again adopted by Christianity, a symbol of sacrifice and power. This is how come when people say, oh, I'm blessed, or I had a blessed day, not realizing the etymology of blessed means to have a blood sacrifice. And people look at me when I say this as if I'm crazy, right? But they're not realizing that the cross was adopted, okay? Meaning that something was sacrificed, okay, in order to gain its power. Let's talk about it. Let's break down the science of the symbolizations of the cross. The absence of the loop, the removal of the feminine energy. The womb is eliminated. Okay. The womb has been taken away from, eliminated from the balance of creation. The crossbar, right, which is once again that horizontal line, the earth realm, but now without its union. Now it doesn't have its union. It's not whole because why? The feminine energy is not there. Now you just have masculine dominance, the vertical line, authority, power over control. What it represents is sacrifice, suffering, atonement, death before life, obedience, hierarchy, redemption. How bad we want to be redeemed through what? Mission. So the balance of free will and free harmony, a flow of energy. We're not talking about male and female. We're talking about components of energy and vibration that's been absorbed through a transformation. And what you transforming into is the symbol in which you are holding intent to. The intentions of the symbol is going to what? Transform into the DNA. Okay. Once again, the symbol of the cross represents sacrifice and dominance. I'm so blessed. That is what a blessing is. It represents a blood sacrifice. And who is being sacrificed between the two images as they are correlating, relating to each other is the feminine energy. Come on. The cross teaches death before fire and submission before freedom. Okay. Let's try another symbol real quick because we got enough time. We surely do. What other symbol can we break down real quick for activation of understanding why symbols are so vitally important to understand and overstand. When I say overstand why you are engaging in this particular energy and why certain things are vibrating into your existence is because you are constantly being coded, activated by that which is surrounding your environment. Okay. This is what these symbols symbolize and are activating. Okay. Once again, codes within our DNA. GG. Okay. So let's start here. Do I want to start there? No, I don't want to start there. Let's see here. Hold on, y'all. GG. I need you to quiet down some, please. Okay. I forgot to upload. Let me see if I can upload the symbol real quick because I really want y'all to get the illustration of these activations. Okay. I really want you to understand what these symbols mean. So when you hear a lot of conscious individuals waking up and they're talking about doing the work with symbols, I want you to understand exactly what that means and how it works. You get what I'm saying? How does these symbols actually activate? And how do you utilize these symbols? Okay, give me 1 second. I found it. Let me upload it real quick. Gigi! My baby in there having a ball by herself. You hear me? You would think it was 50 kids in here. All right, where am I? Download. Okay. Once again, I'm usually a little bit more prepared than this. My computer decided to reboot right before it was time for me to come live. So y'all bear with me, okay? Let me pull this up real quick. And for those that's watching it, look, I do apologize if I yelled in your ear. All right. So let's get to it. Let's talk about the blueprint of creation. Okay, the blueprint of creation. The patterns of unity. This is one of our sacred geometry, ancient symbols. Okay. And when I say ancient symbol, because this is a highly intense activation of a symbol, if you will, if I could sum it up in those areas, in that way. This particular symbol, it contains the patterns of all life. It is the key to remembering who you are on a universal connection, dealing with harmony and balance. It's the eternal pattern. So when you're wearing this symbol, when you have this symbol sitting on your wall, you'll start to find out just how the brain recognizes, how the brain patterns network together. You have a sequence of patterns that are looping and intertwining consistently into itself, into the pattern that we call the life symbol, right? This particular symbol and activation in which I'm teaching at the Sacred Keys University is the candle method. If you get a candle and you have this symbol and you take it and you sit it on the opposite side of where you're sitting and you stare into the shadow of the candle, and then you look back at the symbol and you look back at the candle, you're going to send so much coding into your DNA. A soft gaze at the center of your eye begins to relax. It doesn't strain. This shifts into a more meditative state. So now you just practicing looking at this particular symbol, this pattern of unity is going to actually bring forth peace. It brings forth calmness. It enhances the connection. It supports focus and clarity. It elevates your consciousness, aligns the mind, body, and the spirit. So once again, this is a symbol that is not giving forth a actual sound, yet it still brings forth a frequency, right? That can what? Bring forth a connectiveness within the body and the brain by simply gazing softly at the patterns. Find every circle, look at every intertwining loop. embedded within your DNA, so that when you see the symbol, it instantaneously brings forth the remembrance of what is true. It aligns, once again, the mind, the body, and the soul. Ashe. What other symbol can I bring to the table for our clarity and our understanding? Real quick, let's go here. Let's go to Metryon's cube. Metryon's cube. Is it showing up there, y'all? There we go. Okay. Same